Sniper was a board war game originally released in 1973. Some sources refer to Sniper Patrol as a sort of series of games. A similar game by Simulations Publications Inc. was released at the same time as the original Sniper, called Patrol. Sniper was re-released in 1986 in an expanded and improved edition by TSR. Both games dealt with combat on a man-to-man scale in the Second World War, and the re-release expanded the scope to include the years 1945 to 1990, as well as combining material from the original Patrol game also. 3 companion games to the second edition were also released, Hetzer and Special Forces, focusing on World War II and post-1945 combat respectively, and Bug Hunter, set in a science fiction setting. Initial release. The first Sniper game was released in 1973-74, designed by James Dunnigan. According to the Board Game Geek website, developers included Hank Zucker, John Young, Ed Curran, Bob Felice, Bill Sullivan, Angel Gomez, and Hal Vaughan. Gameplay focused on urban combat, being subtitled House-to-House Fighting in World War II. The game was published in 3 different formats by SPI alone, in a simple white box, in a very common SPI black box tray, and a designer's edition, with color box and mounted map boards. A set of footnotes was included, covering such things as sewer movement, combat. The mapboard was unique in depicting buildings as trapezoids. The abstracted shapes allowed for consistency in line-of-sight rules. The game included 134x22 map, 2 sniper charts and tables, game rules, 1 pad of simultaneous movement sheets, 1 tray with game pieces, 2 sets of 2 tanks, 2 sets of 2 APCs and 2 sets of 2 trucks, as well as 400 die-cut counters in 2 colors, olive green for Allies and grey for Germans, with information counters in white. The map itself was in shades of pink, red. The sets of vehicles were printed on cardstock and had to be cut out. They were also trapezoidal in shape. Second edition. A new version of Sniper, titled Sniper, Second Edition. Game of man-to-man combat, 1941-90, was designed by Steve Winter for TSR, and released in 1986 by TSR using SPI's brand name. Dubbed as the second edition of Sniper, and subtitled Game of Man-to-Man Combat, 1941-90, it was really a reorganization of both TSR's Sniper and SPI's Board Game Patrol. The game came in a handsome box, containing 2 large 22x34 paper maps, a 32-page rules booklet, a sheet of vehicle pieces on cardstock, 2 6-sided dice, a plastic counter tray, and 600 die-cut counters. The maps were identical to each other, allowing for double-blind play with an umpire, while one side of the maps depicted urban combat similar to the first Sniper game, the other depicted rural terrain. The urban map made better use of color than the original, with gray hexes representing pavement and different-sized buildings color-coded according to the number of floors they had. The counters were also very colorful, with soldiers and informational markers in a variety of colors. The rulebook was divided into basic, intermediate, advanced, and optional rules. In an article in Volume 2, Number 6 of Wargamer magazine, designer Steve Winter stated, "I find it immensely interesting that when I first started revising the Sniper and Patrol games in 1985, there were only 2 other wargames that covered modern combat at man-to-man scale. Since then, at least 3 more have been published. Yet, despite this surge of man-to-man games, very few articles have been published about any of them." The game used a ground scale of 2 meters per hex and between 30 seconds and 5 minutes of time per turn. Hetzer was Builder's Sniper companion game number 1, and the Sniper logo was prominently displayed on the cover. This was a standalone product, subtitled Game of Man-to-Man Combat in Europe, 1940–45, and focusing on the Second World War. The game included two 22x34 maps, a 24-page rulebook, a second 16-page rulebook, an 8-page book of scenarios, 3 cardstock sheets of vehicles, 2 six-sided dice, a counter tray and 400 die cut counters. The game was named for the eponymous German self-propelled gun. The initial release was in 1988. A review by James C. Gordon in Volume 2 Number 5 of the Wargamer magazine stated the following: Hetzer fills are in the hobby with a challenging view of ground-level combat situations in World War II. A player must know his objectives at all times and keep a clear plan in mind. Managing forces of sometimes questionable reliability, weapon systems with various strengths and weaknesses, and reacting to the opposition requires the skills of a chess player. Overly aggressive play can lead to excessive and unnecessary casualties. A passive defense leaves the player vulnerable to the impact of the opponent's plans. Physical quality. Professionally done map encounters. The rules are well organized. Playability. Lots to remember and lots to do, but the system is not cumbersome. Some record-keeping involved. Historicity. Derives from the technical details, typical situations and objectives. Good marks for all. Comparison. Ambush is similar, although solitaire. Trench foot covers a different era but of the same level. The original Sniper had Patrol as a companion. Special Forces. Summary: Special Forces Builders Sniper Companion Game Number 2 was sold in a magazine-type format, with a hardcover folded over loose contents, including two 21x32 maps, a 24-page rulebook, a second 16-page rulebook, an 8-page scenario booklet, a reference card, a Ziploc bag and 400 die-cut counters. This too was a standalone product, designed by Rick Swan, though the format allowed it to be offered for a reduced price. Swan provided an extended set of designer's notes in Volume 2, Number 6 of Wargamer magazine. I was more or less given the free hand to set the scope of the game, so the first design decision was to establish parameters. It seemed it could go one of two ways. It could either focus on a few select forces in specifically chosen conflicts, or it could take a broader view and allow for forces from around the world to participate in a variety of situations. The first option would demand a more detailed and complicated system than I wanted, not to mention requiring the answers to questions I wasn't comfortable answering. The second option was more attractive. Not only would it give players a lot to pick from, it sounded like it'd be more fun to design and more like a game I'd like to play. Terry Rooker, writing in Fire and Movement magazine Number 73, May, June 1991, had the following comments on the suitability of the game system to the subject material ostensibly covered by Special Forces. Despite its potential, Sniper is lacking. It has many of the pieces, but it fails to capture some of the most important aspects of LIC. Part of problem is one of scale. Platoon and squad-sized units are not committed until the intelligence people have a good idea about what is going on. Much of the guesswork and uncertainty is missing. Part of the problem is the system. The original system was designed for World War II infantry engagements. In that type of warfare, everyone obeys the rules of land warfare and wears a uniform of the appropriate color. In LIC situations, the situation is not so clear. The combatants often wear clothing indistinguishable from the non-combatants. Target identification is much more difficult. For the direct action part of a mission, Sniper Special Forces is the best game available. Bug Hunter Sniper Companion Game Number 3 was a futuristic version of Sniper, called Bug Hunter. designed by Steve Winter for TSR, focuses on the popular science fiction theme of embattled humans threatened by vicious alien creatures in space and on the ground, as described in Volume 2, Number 6 of Wargamer magazine. According to the Board Game Geek site, Bug Hunter is a sniper patrol series game about hypothetical clashes between spacefaring human adventurers and hostile alien monsters. As in all games in the Sniper series, this game focuses on combat as experienced by the individual soldier. This game examines the problems and situations peculiar to close combat in strange environments and against unknown foes. Multiple geomorphic two-sided maps are included in the game to play out numerous scenarios, each with their own set of victory conditions. The game also includes rules to Sniper, exclusive Bug Hunter rules, scenario booklet, random event cards, cut-out vehicles, and 400 personnel counters and markers. The geomorphic maps could be combined into two large maps, identical in size and shape to the original Sniper maps, depicting indoor space stations, again using familiar trapezoidal architectural structures. The same rigid book cover format as used in Special Forces was used for this release. Game features in common. All four of the published games were quick to set up and to play, with varying degrees of complexity depending on the rules used. Some unique design features included the use of trapezoidal building depictions on the maps, to better simulate lines of sight, and the use of multi-hex counters to simulate vehicles. At a map scale of 2 meters per hex, some vehicles occupied as many as 8 hexes simultaneously. Video game. Steve Estvanik converted the board game series into a multiplayer, online computer game for CompuServe. In the Sniper, a strategy war game, a player starts as a recruit in the Sniper Saloon and Salad Bar, where players can pick up local gossip, brag about wins, and explain defeats. There, players can also challenge other players to a sniper game, or play the computerized opponent. A drill instructor waits in the boot camp to show you new players how the game is played. The Halls of Fame also display players' best scores. In a game of Patrol, two opposing squads, Alpha and Bravo, meet in no man's land between the front lines. In a game of Infiltrate, the Alpha force must cross from one side of the map to the other, exiting the map at Bravo's victory point area before Bravo can stop Alpha. The player has a small squad of soldiers to command, and plays either the Germans or the Americans, somewhere in Western Europe during World War II. Paul C. Skytamer reviewed the Sniper computer game in the January 1993 issue of Compute. CompuServe offers Sniper, a European theater, squad-level World War II war game. The game can be played in ASCII, but the text characters are far too cryptic for my tastes. What makes this game shine is the graphical shell which you can download. The software gives the player a skewed 3D view of the battlefields, as well as several information windows displaying the status of the game. While the game's control logistics seem a little obtuse at first, you can enter a modified boot camp where you explore all of the various commands. Battles are arranged in the game's meeting area, called the Saloon. The games are actually missions with set goals for each side. The game given a positive review in Computer Gaming World, admiring it both as a social experience as well as a competitive game.